How I Ended Up Married to a DL Man, Part 1. Now, before I get into the story, I just want to say the purpose of the story is in no way, shape, or form to paint myself as a victim, because there are going to be many moments in the story where I was a goofy, and it's going to be obvious that I was a goofy and delusional. So before I get into the story, I'm going to give you a little history so you can keep up with the story currently, because there are going to be little intricate details that require me to tell the past history so you can understand the present. First off, like many people in the world, I come from a broken home. I always say I had two parents that had addictions. My mom, after giving birth to me, had serious postpartum depression, and it was the 80s. So no one really knew what that was. She also had an abusive partner, my father, and it was the crack era, the 80s. So that spawned into a crack addiction, which turned into bipolar depression and schizophrenia. And because of that, because of all of those things, she abandoned me when I was between 1 and 2. My dad had a poom poom addiction. He put poom poom above all else up until the day he died, which was in 2021. Before me, before anything, poom poom was always his number one priority. Now, my dad had a few dollars. He owned a limousine company when I was coming up, so poverty was never really the issue. But he was a newly unexpected single father. So with this small child, 1 year old, 2 years old, and was searching for a mother for me. He found a woman, his wife, who pretended that she was into him for his money and pretended she was into his child until she got pregnant, and then she started mistreating me. Now, my father put poom poom above all else, right? Above all else. So he stayed with the woman despite this and tried to maneuver despite knowing how I was being treated. Most of everyone that witnessed the abusive behaviors were mortified, including her family, certain members of her family. There was one particular member of her family that was mortified. Obviously, I had been in her family since I was 3 years old. So they had seen me as a small child, and she saw the behavior, was mortified, and took me under her wing. We're going to call her Natalie. Natalie, around the time that I was 13 years old, discovered what was going on and started taking me away for holidays and different events just for me to get some reprieve from the abusive environment that I was in. And Natalie had a son. Now, at this time, I was about 13. Natalie's son was maybe 10, 11. So wasn't paying this little boy no mind. But from the time I started coming around regularly, this boy always had a crush on me. I absolutely never took him seriously and never thought that I would, but life comes at you fast. And fast forward to today, I'm married to Natalie's son, and I uncover in our marriage that he is full-blown DL and cheating on me with men. Come back for part 2. How I Ended Up Married to a DL Man, part 2. So in my previous video, I talked about the abuse that I experienced from my father's wife. It wasn't really physical abuse as much as it was mental. So for instance, from the age I was 7 years old, so my dad and his wife ended up having 3 other children, and we all lived in the house together. And from the age of 7, I was responsible for cleaning up the dishes in the kitchen after everyone in the house. They bought a house where there was one room downstairs and all the other bedrooms was upstairs in the house. My room was the room downstairs, so I was segregated from everyone. I wasn't allowed in the kitchen unless it was to clean it. So every day my father wouldn't get home from work till late, and I wasn't allowed to eat until he got home from work. And if he got home from work extremely late, I just didn't eat. And these type of things started when I was about 7. They would leave the house, go on outings. From the age I was 7, leave me in the house by myself. We lived in a house in the woods in Pennsylvania. So yeah, these were the things that I was experiencing from 7 up until about 13. And this is important because of this, I guess I didn't really understand when people were treating me poorly, because I kind of got used to those type of things. So anyways, Natalie comes to visit one day. She sees this and she's freaked out. She is my dad's wife's cousin. We're going to call her Jill. She's my dad's wife's cousin. And she's freaked out. She's telling her about herself, telling my dad about himself, how could y'all do this, whatever. From the time that I'm 13 years old, she starts picking me up from the house and taking me on outings. And my dad was happy about it because he was just glad to have me out of the house, because his only concern was keeping his wife at the time happy. So about 3 or 4 times she would pick me up, take me to her house, where it was a lot more comfortable because I had a lot more freedom in terms of like being a normal person, walking around a house, like being around people, interacting with people. She would take me on outings with her to like the mall, to like hang out with other kids in her family, different things. And it was really good. It was really nice, really great. And I lived in the Poconos and she lived in Long Island. So she would drive like an hour and change to come get me and do this just because she felt so bad because of how I was being treated. She had a son, and from the age of when I was 13 and he was about 11, he had a crush on me. But I never took him seriously because when you're a kid, 13 and 11 is like, yeah, I'm like years ahead of you. Like, I'm like so advanced. Like, I'm already like a teenager. Also, did I say she picked me up 3 or 4 times? I meant like 3 or 4 times a year from the ages of like 13 to 15. I ended up moving in with my best friend's family when I was 13. And I stayed there for 2 years and she was picking me up from there. So like I ended up developing being really close with her. And yeah, she had a son. He had a crush on me. I looked at him like a little boy, never paid him no mind. I looked at him like a joke. But I always respected and appreciated what she did to me. Fast forward to adulthood, like I ended up joining the military, but when I got out of the military, I would still like try to show my gratitude for the things that she did. Anything that she invited me to, I would come. Anytime that she was having something, I would show up. We would spend hours on the phone together. I would tell her about things that I was experiencing, things in my life. And we had an all-around closeness. I would call it a mother-daughter relationship. Now, during this time, obviously we're both adults because I fast forward to adulthood because we're here now. Let's say 20s. So her son didn't live in her house. But whenever I did, or didn't live with her, but whenever I did see him, we would fight like cats and dogs. I'm talking about it would be war. Me and this boy, once we got to adulthood, could never get along. Like I'm talking bad. It would like nearly come to blows almost every time. Like I couldn't stand him because I just felt like he had a miserable personality. Like he was always like so insecure about everything. Anything would set this guy off, even them. I later found out that he had a serious cocaine addiction. So that was that. But again, mine and her relationship didn't change. We were close for years and years and years and years. Extremely close. I was closer to her, I would say. No, this is a fact. I was closer to her than her own children. Biologically. Now, during this time, I'm building my career. I'm building my life. I ended up in real estate, buying houses, buying properties. I'm dating. But for whatever reason, I'm not meeting the type of man that I would like to, okay? Come back for part 3, y'all. I promise y'all I'm going to get to it. This is a story. We about to get into the juicy part, but come back for part 3. How I ended up married to a DL man, part 3. So I gave the background of the story, so now we can start getting into the meat and potatoes of this shit, okay? So I was dating and I wasn't necessarily coming across the type of relationship that I wanted. So now at this point, I'm 36. I had my eggs frozen twice just in case. I had never attempted to get pregnant, although I know I could because I was just waiting to do things the quote unquote right way, to be married the way they say you should do it, married and have kids. But I started to give up on the idea and decided that maybe it just wasn't going to happen for me. So, we all got that little biological clock. So I was like, well, maybe I should start scouting for someone that I trust, that I respect, that I have a prior relationship with or that I'm cool with to potentially have a child with. So I'm talking to Natalie and she's like talking about people in her family because she wants to have a biological connection to me. Because even though we're very, very close biologically, we don't have any blood relatives. So I'm like, you know what? Like, that would be dope. Like, so she's listing out people and we're joking about it or whatever. We get to her son. Neither one of us, both of us are like, hell no. When we get to him, it's just like, absolutely not. We laugh over it. Don't even think twice about it. At this time, he's living in Miami. We just gonna call him BB for Bussy Bandit. So at this time, BB is living in Miami. Now, over the years prior to him living in Miami, I had definitely seen him quite a few times over the years. It usually turned into a war at some point because, like I said, oil and vinegar, but I had seen him over the years. We had gone out to eat quite a few times, me, his mom, whatever, and other family members. But there's one particular time his mom invites me out to eat with him and his best friend. Now, prior to this, he had girlfriends that I knew about that he had been with for, he had a girlfriend that he had been with for a couple years, and I never thought anything of him in terms of like sexuality, you know? But there was a best friend who he was always with, who he wanted his mom to meet, and she invited me to come along. But she's like talking to me, telling me how invested this guy is to meet her, and like how BB is telling him that he'll be so like disappointed if he doesn't get a chance to meet her. And I think this is weird. But I'm like, you know, people have different friendships, whatever. Maybe he just really wants to meet his best friend's mom. Also, the guy has BB on payroll for his company, but BB doesn't work. So I thought that was strange. And they were like traveling together and doing different things. But again, there's going to be many times in this conversation where I'm a goofy. So just keep up. We're going to call the best friend Chuck. So Chuck and BB show up to dinner with us, and Chuck is clearly rainbow. He's clearly part of the LGBTQ community. He also seems very intent on making a good impression on BB's mom, Natalie. So while this is happening, me and Natalie are at the table texting. And I kind of tell her, I think this dude might be, you know, rainbow. And she's like, I know, OMG. We're texting at the table with him. Like, she's like, you know, OMG, my son is rainbow. But again, we're just talking. There's no confirmation, like, but it's just very, very strange behavior at this time. We get in the car. We're talking about it. We're like kind of like in shock, trying to process what we just experienced. They invite us out again the next day. The next day we go out. Now, on this particular day, things seem a lot less, you know, tambourine. So I'm like, I kind of like, it's still in the back of my head, but I'm like, who knows? Like, maybe. Y'all, it's so many details to the story. Like and comment if you want a part 4. All right, so being that I'm in the house pregnant by said DL husband, I guess I could give y'all part 4 because I ain't doing shit else. My life. So after the dinner with Chuck and BB, we like everyone in his family is kind of like, in his immediate family is kind of like suspicious, because now there are certain red flags, like how are you, like why are you on this guy's payroll, like what's going on, why is this guy, why, like certain things just aren't added up. There's suspicions, but like again, nothing can be proven. But now everything being said and done is being analyzed because the behavior, like what's going on. Like one time we were having a conversation and he told us with the girlfriend he was with for 2 years, he never had an explosion. But he said he always had an explosion with this big girl he used to smash. So then we were like, maybe he just has a big girl thing. He told one of his family members like that Chuck was like, would die without him one time. And the family member was like, what? Like, another time he was on vacation with Chuck somewhere, like they went out of the country somewhere, and he FaceTimed, but someone said they only saw one bed in the hotel room they were in. Again, now all of this is suspicious behavior, but this is not definitive anything. This is just like, we don't know if we're being like, you know, bigoted a-holes at this point. Also, keep in mind the cocaine addiction. So we don't know if maybe, because the guy kind of seems like a sad soul, so we kind of felt like he was just using the guy, which is fucked up, using the guy for his resources because the guy seemed to be well off. I'm telling Natalie, like, maybe he's like rainbow for pay. Y'all know the term. So her and him end up getting to an argument about something else, and she like cusses his ass out and says, that's why you rainbow for pay, and blocks him, and they ended up not talking for a while. So he moves to Miami, cleans himself up, cleans up his addiction, and ends up trying to start getting his life back on track. He starts trying to get into the fire department for a job, and he's moving forward with the process. But he has an open court case in Virginia that he has to deal with. So his family is helping him to go to Virginia to deal with this court case. So his mom invites me to this event. Her niece is graduating from college, and she invites me to the graduation party. And unbeknownst to me, he's going to be there. He's there. So our interaction is very, very different than it normally is. Like, we actually kind of cool, which is unusual for us. But I find out later that it's because he had ended up cleaning up. Like, he was no longer an addict at that point, on cocaine anyway. So we like cool, we kikiing or whatever, like laughing, chopping it up or whatever at the party. I brought my puppy there. He's like watching my puppy for me the whole time. Just on some cool shit. There's an older man there that tries to talk to me. Historically, since we were kids, anybody that tries to talk, again, this man has had a crush on me since we were children. Any person that has tried to talk to me, he has beef with. So I don't even remember how this beef like escalated, but eventually they ended up having words and BB whoops this man's ass. His finger is damaged. I end up taking him to the hospital or whatever because his finger's like bent or whatever. And so like we're like chopping it up, you know? I go home from the incident, but I call him because I learned something else. I don't even remember because it was so minuscule. I called him to chop it up and say something about the fight and the altercation he had with the dude, right? And somewhere in the conversation, he just jumps out and goes, well, you know, I really want to have a family. Like, I'm really interested in having a family, like, or whatever. So I call Natalie and I'm like, yo, like, he's talking about, like, having a family and stuff. Like, what's this about? She's like, I don't know. I just got off the phone with him. And I was like, you know, I would not marry him, but like, I would consider having a child because at this time, like, I was vetting for having children anyway. So she talks to me and goes, well, he's insisting that he wants to get married and start a family with you and whatever else, and that he's going to talk to you. So I'm like, what? Talk to me? Because we're not even talking at this point, right? So I don't know where this new him came out. He's saying all the right shit. Like, you need a big, strong man to protect you. Like, he's a buff guy. He's always in the gym. You need a big, strong man to protect you. Like, you need someone to take care of you, like, blah, blah, blah. And like, I'm blushing because it's like kind of cute or whatever. Like, we flirting on the phone or whatever. Before the situation moves forward, I call her and I'm like, would it bother you if me and your son started talking? Because I respect her too much. If she told me no, I respected her too much. She told me no, I would have not talked to him. And she was like, absolutely, y'all could talk. Like, I would love that, blah, blah. So me and him start talking. The story ends with me pregnant and in jail. Like and comment for part 5. I got to give y'all all the details so y'all understand how we get there. How I ended up married to a DL man, part 5. One part that I forgot to mention, because all the details matter. Another thing, like, so before I saw him at the party, before we started talking, his mom had showed me a picture of him, and the picture looked like this. The only reason I'm saying all these details is because I want to be accountable for all of the red flags that I ignored. So yeah, like, that was another thing. So anyways, fast forward and we talking like every night. He goes back to Miami. We're on the phone every night. Like, he can, like, he's like saying all the right shit. Very sweet, very thoughtful, very considerate. He's like I'm just having such a good time talking to him every night. We fall asleep every night playing, like, sharing our Apple Music songs. So like, we're sharing our music that we listen to. And we have over 20 years of history. So we share a lot of the same, like, people that we know. So we're like sharing notes about things and like just like connecting over things that we have in common. And I'm like honestly starting to get really excited because he actually comes, despite who he comes from a really good family, I would say. So I would never suspect that he was who he actually became because I didn't think that his family could produce the type of person that he is. So like, I was really excited, like, wow, this might be a person that I could trust. And then also being that I knew his whole family and his whole family knew me my whole life, there's a certain level of comfort there because you believe that this person, there are certain things that they won't do to you because of your history. So like, there was a level of trust that I had for him that I never had for anyone else, not off rip, like, especially me being so close to his mom and everything. Like, she literally called me her daughter for like most of my life. So, but anyways, we're talking every night. We kikiing on the phone, like just having a great time. And like one day it comes up that like, and I could tell he's hesitant to mention this. I don't even know how it came up, but apparently he was like months behind on his rent. He was about to get evicted. So I own my own house here in Jersey. I'm like, you know, well, look, why don't you come here? I can help you out, help you get back on your feet. Like I said, there are going to be many times in this story where I'm a goofy, okay? I'm taking accountability. So he's acting hesitant, but like, I kind of know because I know his family that his mom's family don't really want him at their house because of past instances, and his dad's family don't really want him at their house because of past instances. All of these, again, red flags, but I'm like, oh, nah, you're so great. We've been talking every night. Come on over. I give him like $1,000 to make the move, like to give something to his landlord, clean out his apartment and come. Again, a goofy. And he comes. And at this point, the only people that know that we're dating is his mom, because we kind of like didn't want for his family to know. At the time, he was dealing with that court case in Virginia, and his grandmother, who is kind of well off, was the one that was paying for it. And we felt like she may not approve of our relationship, so we were kind of keeping it wrapped. So because she was paying for his attorneys and stuff, we thought. So he comes here, and things are really cute at first, like it's fun or whatever. And then the mask starts to slip. Every other day, every 5 seconds, this nigga is getting an attitude for nothing. Like, I'm talking about like snapping for no reason. And then like, also it kind of seems like he's not, like, he seems happy, but like something's off. He's also a heavy smoker. So like, usually he would smoke and he would like be cool, but like at any given moment, this dude could have like a mood swing, and like we're at it. So I'm like telling his mom, like, I don't know if I can handle this, because now I'm starting to feel like I bit off a little bit more than I can chew. So I'm like, I don't know if I can handle this. Like, he has these attitudes, and she's like, oh God, like she's concerned because she can hear in my voice, like I'm whispering on the phone with her in my house, and she's like, why are you whispering? She's like, oh no, like he has to go. Like, you're not, I don't care if that's my son, like you're not gonna be with somebody that's making you uncomfortable in your house, blah, 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 blah. Now, remember the history that I told you I have with the drug addicted mother and the past that I have. So like, I'm trying to be patient, because I'm like, well, you know, like I'm concerned about his sobriety. Like I'm very proud of him because he made the step to get off drugs or whatever. And like, I don't want to like turn my back on him and he goes back to that. Like, he's getting his life together, and I want to be here to support him. So like, we go through it, we deal with it, whatever. But I'm still very, very suspicious though, because again, I'm somewhat of a seasoned woman. So typically when a man face like starts to slip, like his mask starts to slip, and all of a sudden he starts giving you attitude, usually it's another bitch in the picture. Like, another bitch came in the picture and he mad he with you, right? Mind you, we like weeks into this thing, and this starts happening. So I'm like, what the hell? So one night he's sleep in bed, and like, I just pick up his phone while he's asleep, and I put his birthday in, and that shit opens. So I'm looking through it, and I'm looking through his messages, but I'm nervous because dude is literally laying right next to me. So like, I'm looking, and then I put the phone down, put the phone down because I'm scared he's gonna wake up. But finally I decide to get up and leave the room. I'm like tiptoeing out of the room with his phone. I do a quick look, make sure I'm not gone for too long, and I happen to I'm like, if there's anything, it's going to be in the recently deleted. I go into the recently deleted, and there's two like text message lanes, and there are men's names with like purple heart next to them. One is like Alejandro with a purple heart next to it. The other is Ferris with a purple heart next to it. How I ended up married to a DL man, part 6. So I skipped a part. Before I went through the phone, we had already started talking about like marriage. Like, I didn't want to be married because at this point I was okay. Like, I just kind of was ready to have a child. But he was like pushing for marriage. Like, no, I want to do this the right way. Like, if we whatever, like, we are going to have a child, whatever. Like, I want to have a family. Like, I want to have my wife, and I want to have my child, and I want to do this the right way. And he was talking about like how he also came from a broken home, such and such, whatever. So I was like, yeah, you're right. Like, I came from a broken home. You came from a broken home. And like, again, I felt very safe with him where I shouldn't have, because I know his family so well. So we had already started about like eloping and getting married. Then I go through the phone and I see the text threads with Alejandro, purple heart, Ferris, purple heart. Okay. Now I click on the text threads, and like Alejandro is sending him like pictures of his body. Like, and he's like, oh, do you have any recents? But BB never responds. Right. And I don't even remember what Ferris was saying, but BB never really responded to him either. He just kind of like deleted the messages or whatever. So I'm thinking about how we went to dinner with Chuck or whatever else. But I'm like, damn, like, honestly, because my mother, again, was a drug addict. So I've seen my mother do a lot of things that like I know she wouldn't do if she was on drugs. And again, I'm trying to be sensitive and thoughtful. So I'm like, if he did do things that he shouldn't have for money or whatever, like, I'm just going to look past it because I feel like he's a genuinely good person and he just needs support. A goofy, y'all. So anyway, but I don't tell him that I went through the phone and I saw this. Honestly, not because I didn't want to embarrass him, but because he deleted it, I kind of felt like, and because I didn't see that much, I didn't have enough time to like really do a deep dive. I kind of wanted to wait, give it time and see if I uncovered anything else later. Because if I told him now you're really going to go ahead and start hiding shit, right? So I didn't say anything to him about it. But I did ask him about the situation with Chuck. So the next day, like, I'm sitting there, I'm very, very embarrassed. And I'm like, I'm uncomfortable. But I'm like, hey, you know, I was just curious about something. And he's like, what? I'm like, you know, have you ever done anything with a guy? Like, were you and Chuck ever, like, doing things? And he's like, you could see, like, the shame on his face. And I instantly feel bad because, like, I'm mortified because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm probably bringing up like repressed memories or whatever. And he's like, honestly, he was like, I did use him for money. He was like, but I never like did anything with him for real. He was like, the only thing I did, and I'm disgusted by it, like I wanted to throw up, and like I was so grossed out by it, is like one time, like he begged me and pleaded with me and I needed money, and he asked me if he could like go down on me, and I let him do it for like a few seconds or whatever. So, but like you could see the shame in his face, and then after he said it, he like ran in the room and shut the door behind him, and he like put his face in the pillow, and like he was like, why would you bring this up, blah blah blah. So I feel bad. So now I'm like, honestly, we never have to talk about this again because I genuinely feel for him, you know. Goofy. So like I'm like, you know what, I don't care about your past, like we can move forward. I will never bring that up again, because at this point, even though like he's not a perfect person, I understand he's not a fully healed person, and I'm trying to be patient or whatever, right? So we move forward. We decide on a date to get married, right? So we elope and we get married shortly after, maybe like a month and a half after he moves in here. Maybe, I don't even know if it was even that long. Then I start finding liquor bottles empty liquor bottles all over the house. Like, so I discover he's replaced the drug addiction with alcohol. So now I'm like spooked. And I'm like wondering, is this where the mood swings is coming from? Like, I don't know what to think, but now we're married, right? So finally, like maybe like a month and a half later, I don't know, something just told me to look in the phone again. Okay. So I look in the phone, and like now I do more of a deep dive. I don't have time. Again, he's asleep this time, but like now I've learned his sleeping pattern, so I know he's a little bit of a hard sleeper and I have more time. So I take the phone out and I go in the living room and I'm really looking through. But like, again, I don't want to be going with the phone for too long. I'm seeing text threads of like him professing his like to some person named somebody named James, like professing his undying love in paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs to this person. I'm seeing him conversing with the other guy, Ferris. And like, I'm seeing him like, I see a video of him at my house on FaceTime with the gentleman Ferris, while Ferris is naked, showing his pussy. And he's looking at him intensely in the camera, and he's screen recording it. And I am shook, honey, like completely shook. I'm in shock. I can't believe what I saw. And I instantly wake him up. Like at this point, like I'm like, get up. I went through your phone. Get up. Like I've seen what's in there. Get up. And I'm asking him like, are you Rainbow? And he's like, what you went through my phone? Because he's disoriented because I just woke him up. I'm like, are you Rainbow? I went through your phone. He's like, no, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? So he like jumps up, he starts pacing back and forth. I'm like, well, who are these people? And I'm showing him like the messages I see between James and Ferris. He's like, oh, they're nobody. I was like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I see your messages. I see this, that, and the third. And he's like, you know, I'm not gonna lie. So old habits die hard. I'm used to getting money from these guys. Like I lead them on. I don't do anything with them. I just lead them on to get money from them, and then I cut them off, which is a fucked up thing to do. But I'm like, what do you mean you lead them on? He's like, I pretend that I like them, get money out of them, and then ghost them. So I'm like, what can this be? But I remember, we're going to get back to Chuck. So I had a conversation with his mom about Chuck. So him and Chuck had a falling out where Chuck told his mom that he used him and like led him on and misled him. So I remember that conversation and I'm like, maybe he's telling the truth. But then something's just not right in this situation. Like something, because I'm talking about professing his like paragraphs, pouring his heart out to this one dude, James. So then I'm like, call the numbers. So he looks panicked. I'm like, call the numbers or you have to leave right now. So he calls the numbers, but I didn't know at the time that he had the people blocked. So it's the middle of the night. He was banking on the person not answering and being like, well, they didn't answer. And then we just go on about our lives. And at this point, we're married. So he calls them both. Neither one of them answers, but James is a motherfucker. James calls back from another number. So I go, hand me the phone. He's like, I think he's so shook he doesn't even know what to do. He hands me the phone, right? So I'm like, hey, this is his wife. Like, I'm being nice because I don't have nothing against these people, but I want to know what happened. So I'm like, I'm here with BB. Like, what is the situation with you and him? Like, how do you guys know each other? The guy's like, what? He was married that whole time? I was like, no, he wasn't married the whole time. We're newlyweds, but what is your relationship with him? James says, we were sleeping together. What? BB interjects like, we never slept together. I only slept at your house a couple times because I fell asleep on the couch. At this point, I know this Negro's playing in my face. So I'm like, shut up, okay? James is apologetic. Like, I'm so sorry you're going through this. Like, because James had just texted him like a couple days before. That's how I saw that the text thread with James. Like, that's how I even saw it. So he's like apologizing. I'm like, it's not your fault. He's the liar. So now, like I said, I'm in shock, like complete shock. Like I'm trying to figure out how I ended up here. I need a break. Like and comment for part 7.